with our former Defense Secretary, former Nebraska Senator Chuck Hagel. Secretary, always good to have you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
How far can we realistically push the Chinese on this if they keep saying no? This is all a political sham, just paraphrasing here. No, it didn't begin in the lab. End of story.
Well, obviously we have limitations, Neil, as to how much we can push, but we can push. We've got levers, we've got relationships, we've got dimensions to our relationship with China that affect everything else. And I think this administration is right to continue to push on this to get some answers and to team up with the World Health Organization as well as all of our allies, because we just don't know. But we need to know, because if for no other reason, it's for the future. What happens down the road, year, 5 years, if something else like this breaks out? So we've got to have better answers than we're getting, and we need to push the Chinese more.
You know, Secretary, maybe it's just me, and you're far more versed in these foreign affair issues than I'll ever be, but I do notice a much more provocative China, certainly provocative regarding Taiwan, provocative in just the in-your-face response to these inquiries about the origins of the virus, you know, strutting their military stuff around the globe. To what end? What's going on?
Well, I think if you go back a few years and chart President Xi's trajectory and his history, he has been all about power. He has been all about positioning China as the center of the universe in every way. And now it's becoming clear militarily, space, not just economically, what those authoritarian intentions are and the effects they would have on our world and our world order. And I don't think it's anything new. I mean, when I was Secretary of Defense under the Obama administration, I saw it. We all saw it. I met with President Xi 3 times in China. They were pretty tough meetings. In those days, I confronted him about the East China Sea, South China Sea, what they were doing, intimidating their neighbors, which they've expanded that and accelerated that. But I don't think it's new, Neil. It's been progressive. And if you look at Chinese history, that's the way they operate. I was once reminded by an old Chinese engineer. He said, Mr. Hagel, he said, you got to remember something about the Chinese. We're 5,000 years old. He said, we're very patient. We know where we're going. We know what we want to do and know how to get there.
So I understand the militarization of islands in the South China Sea to which they had no right, but they didn't see a U.S. response. Do you think that from that they're gleaning that we would not respond to an invasion of Taiwan?
Well, I think that's in their calculations. I'm sure it is. And it would be. I don't think that's anything new to our planners. Certainly when I was Secretary of Defense, when I was in the United States Senate before that, I mean, we knew that was always an option the Chinese had. But they're building their force structure and their capabilities, and they're ratcheting up not just rhetoric, but everything. And so I think at some point here, we're probably headed for some kind of a showdown with them. And I think President Biden is wise here in one of the approaches he's taken when he said that we need all of our friends, all of our partners, all our allies with us on this when dealing with the Chinese, not just in the Pacific Asia region, but in Europe as well. And I'm sure this is going to be on the agenda on the G7 summit when the G7 leaders get together and talk about things. And I'm sure President Putin and President Biden will discuss some of this as well.
And I imagine that President Putin and President Biden will also be discussing these hack attacks on a number of big U.S. entities, including one of the world's largest meat providers, JBS, and the Colonial Pipeline. Now, the Russians have argued it's not from us. We've certainly isolated it to Russian entities. Whether Vladimir Putin directly knew about it, that's another matter. But it seems almost impossible that he'd not know about it. What do you think?
Well, I think you're right. I think it's almost impossible to believe that he did not know about this or have some sense of it. I mean, nothing goes on in Russia without Putin knowing about it and directing it. And so this will obviously have to be a top priority issue on that agenda with Putin and Biden. And Biden's got to play this just right. I mean, he's got to be clear, direct, and I think he's got to say to Putin that we have some recourses here to deal with this. We don't want to do it, but we will use our abilities, and we have many in the cyber world, as well as other capacities, and we'll use those. And I think he's got to lay that out, not in a bleak, direct warning, but in a very clear conversation, leader to leader.
I'm sure the same conversation the other way will go with Vladimir Putin saying, all right, you pull this with us, we can extract some pain on you. They are an OPEC Plus member country, as you know. They could extract some pain there. We're already seeing oil prices lift as a result. I'm just wondering where all of this goes because it's pretty frosty.
It's very frosty, but let's start with this, Neil. It's been the Russians who initiated everything. We haven't initiated anything against Russia. In its commercial sector or anywhere else. It's been them who has done it. Now, like you say, you can ask the question, well, did Putin know? Was it government inspired, directed, and so on? Well, we'll leave that on the side for right now. But the fact is, our intelligence people are very clear on this. It came from Russia. So they've started this. So we've got to make sure that he understands. Like I said, not a warning to him, not if you do this, we're going to do this. But make it clear we have capacities. We don't want, it's not in our interest, just as you say, it's not in Putin's interest to get us into some kind of a cyber war with Russia, because this will affect everybody. It will affect trade. It will affect everything. But we might make it clear that we're not going to allow this to continue. Now, we're much better off, let's find some common interests here, to cooperate where we can. We're going to have differences. We've always had differences. But let's reorient the relationship. But I think you've got to come at this with some force and some reality, as well as reaching out to Putin and saying, let's cooperate. Let's make sense out of all this, and let's work where we can work together. But we're not going to continue to tolerate what we've seen happen here in this country.
All right, see how these talks go then. Chuck Hagel, former U.S. Defense Secretary, Nebraska Senator, decorated Vietnam War veteran, thank you very much.